It's fun to kind of watch the policemen here flagging all the various cars, but you know, all of these cars have people in them. Many people without Jesus Christ. And that is the gospel commission, to go into all the world and share Jesus. Now, sometimes we think of all the world as a very localized area here or here, but you know, down here in the islands of Micronesia, there are people who need to hear the precious gospel of Jesus also. And Jesus, with that commission of go into all the world, set out a very specific line of what I like to call the cycle of evangelism. Some sow, plant seed, others water, and still others harvest the seed. Canvasback fits especially in that first one, sowing a lot of seed, changing hearts and lives, bringing them to an awareness of who Jesus is, his incredible love, just one miracle at a time.
So we feel that the risks would outweigh the benefits for that left eye. Okay, and then let's put a drop of Pohnpei. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Mike. Yep. Okay, I want to put an eye drop in your right eye, okay? This is a glaucoma or eye pressure drop. Look up high. Close.
You know, he's very valuable in the sense that he could do
Quite a few patients when we go on mission trips like this that have brown cataracts, but his was extra hard and brown. And so the normal techniques I would use to fractionate it and suck it out little pieces would have been done him more harm than good, compared to what we did, which is a larger incision, bring it out like delivering a baby, just bring it all out in one piece.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, and that's what that photo we took was about.
So not everything's good news.
That's right. In his other eye, we had bad news for him. If his eye pressure, if his eye was earlier on in the process, we could have done a lens exchange and maybe a corneal transplant. But as it is, it was sick enough that we know from experience, if we operated on an eye with that low of pressure, that you can't. It's not just a matter of raising the pressure. When the eye gets sick, it actually starts to shut down fluid production. And this is why an eye can go in, it's in the early stages of what we call ptysis, which is the fancy medical term for so sick that it starts to shrink.
So that's down.
Just turn it up and push a little bit, and it'll just fall out of there.
Okay, give somebody.
Yeah.
See you on Tuesday.
So these guys fish all night to bring in a catch. The first one was close to 80 pounds. These guys look like they caught bigger fish. Did they just, it's the luck of the draw for fishing? Yeah. Now by the end of the day, I assume they'll pretty much sell all these out.
Yeah. In the morning, people, especially the markets, they come in the morning and just buy, not markets, but people who are selling food, restaurants and things like that, they'll buy it.
So most of it for the restaurant and really the tourist industry then?
Tourists don't usually come and buy fish.
Well, tourists don't come to the restaurants?
Oh yeah, they go to the restaurant, but not here.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant.
Okay.
They eat everything at the restaurants.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end up on the table typically, maybe the locals.
No. Only few locals will come and buy.
So those fishermen, if they have a good catch, usually fishermen can make some good money.
Oh yeah.
Now how much does a fisherman have in the cost of his equipment for a boat and thing? How much does a boat cost?
Oh, boats will cost you, it depends. The smaller boat will cost you maybe 4,000, 5,000.
A lot of money.
Yeah, but a nice one like mine, maybe that's $8,000, $9,000.
A boat then costs more than a car. You were telling me yesterday some cars $2,000.
Yeah.
Boats way more money.
Few people have boats. More people have cars because cars are really cheap.
How much of the economy is fishing still here for the islands?
You know, we we rarely export fish. So it's the economy, what we are getting from fish is the license that these people are giving us. So about up to maybe almost $3 million.
For the big,
$30 million.
the big fishing
Yeah.
groups from other countries.
Yeah. But the small one is just come here and less people are fishing now. So we just buy our fish.
Buy all the fish.
Yeah.
Okay. Do these all gill nets? Now they catch by nets?
No, spear. Nighttime they go spear fishing.
This is all spearfish.
Yeah.
They're busy. That's a lot of fish to catch.
These guys,
spearfish.
they go down some of them will go down like 70, 80 feet.
And they're just snorkeling,
Yeah.
doing it. Wow.
It's amazing. It's just like, you use tank, you go down 90 feet, 70 feet. These guys are fishing way down.
Yeah, I've been scuba diving for a lot of years, but boy, when you just snorkel, that takes a lot to go down and find a fish and spear it and get back up before you run out of breath. Fishing is an industry as old as time itself, really. Matter of fact, even Jesus, after the resurrection, he met with the disciples. He saw them out on the lake. He called to them. They'd been fishing. They came in, and there was a beautiful little fire with fish laid on the fire to provide them some sustenance. Fishing is an economy here that's dwindled over time. Now there's very few fishermen in comparison to the worldwide fishing that goes on. China and Japan and many other nations, they're taking most of the catch, which leaves very little for the nationals here in Pohnpei.
Canvasback Missions has been changing hearts and lives in the islands of Micronesia for nearly 4 decades. Founders Jamie and Jackie Spence once ferried medical and dental teams by catamaran and ship across the Pacific Ocean. But when small hospitals were established on many island nations, the mode of operation changed, as did the needs of the people. To this day, however, these hospitals lack medical specialists to perform the most difficult surgeries. On an ongoing basis, Canvasback flies all volunteer super teams to the islands to conduct surgeries and to train local medical staff. Teams are usually comprised of specialists in the fields of gynecology, orthopedics, ophthalmology, ENT, dental, and others as needed. They dedicate 2 weeks of life-changing mission work to relieve the pain and suffering of the people. If you would like to volunteer for 2 weeks of life-changing work, log on to canvasback.org and follow the prompts to volunteer.
Well, Bruce had been asked several times by Dr. Gano to come to Pohnpei, and I guess any mission, but particularly here, to work on all the equipment. And Bruce didn't want to go without me, so it worked out for me to go with him. And I'm really glad that we got to go together. We have lots of projects at home, and but this is much more important. Helping people. These people really need some help, and we're able to give it actually quite easily. It's a little different. I'm a college professor, and I teach computer classes.
I think that, just extra hands makes the work lighter, and that's true here too. But I mean, and she took some time to train a little bit before she came, and I'm sure she felt like, she was in over her head, but when she started here, but at least she had a little exposure to it before she actually started doing that. And she's familiar with the equipment from kind of a mechanical standpoint, because she's a dealer for the autoclaves that we're using here. And so she set up for us to go and get factory training for servicing them. So that, she sat through those classes with me. For me, probably 6 months ago, because I started getting emails from Dr. Gallen of stuff that wasn't working, that they would need help with, and I actually then was able to get some equipment that needed repair and fix it at home and send it over here. So when we got here, we had pieces that were already working, and then we'll leave those here for them to continue using. Stuff that anybody could do. When we first got here, everything needed to be unpacked, And so that's a big job in itself.
Almost a container load.
Yeah, a lot of big box crates, and so then one of the things that they wanted done is they had a couple of new pieces of equipment that they had gotten here, but they'd just been sitting in the box because they didn't have anybody to put them together. And one was a surgery microscope, another was a retinal camera, and so I actually didn't do all of that. I just helped out in parts, and other people, took it out of the box and got stuff ready so that I could stay on task with some other things. A lot of the stuff that I've worked on, some of it's similar, but it's not stuff that I've actually been trained in or had experience with. So it's taken a little more time, and the internet's not quite as good of access here. Normally, for stuff that I'm piece of equipment that I haven't worked on before, I would get on YouTube and see if I could find some instructional stuff on there. I kid people and tell them I'm a doctor, that I'm a noologist, and so I have a doctorate in noology. But so I've got some stuff on YouTube too that showing how to work on different lasers or stuff like that. Okay.
Right, yeah, we had some catching up to do. We had to be ready Monday morning. Surgeries right away. Yes, we're
that
pretty
first
tired.
day we were pretty wiped out. And we're having a great time meeting some of the people here. We haven't had a chance because of the extra day to get here to really look around or see stuff. A lot of times when we get a chance to go walking, it's dark already, but we did get one evening to get out in a little bit while it was still daylight. So that's kind of fun, and just seeing the water so close. And well, part of it is, for the people that came on the team, Dr. Gano, Dr. Marshall, those guys are part of my family. So, if they need help, I want to help them out. So that's part of it. And then the people here, to help them, but not only to help them, but to just get to know them a little bit, and have a chance to interact and share what's going on in their life and what's going on in our lives, and so that's part of it too. But yeah, where I work, there's lots of doctors that are doing missions. I'm really honored to be a part of that group. And there's a doctor that goes to Ethiopia every year, a doctor that goes to Fiji, Dr. Gano that does somewhere in the Marshall Islands or the Micronesia every year. There's a doctor that goes to North Korea once a year. And so, that's the thing. They've all been asking me, and I've been kind of just taking care of them when they're at home is a big job in itself. So I've kind of put it off. But yeah, no, after this experience, I think I would, if we can work it out, I think we would do it again if there was a situation where our skills would help out. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I really enjoyed getting the people, I'm back in the surgery area, and there are several of the Pohnpei people here that work for the hospital, and we get to spend a little time visiting, and it's neat to see the difference in culture. One thing is their sense of time, or lack thereof. They're very easygoing. They're never in a rush, which sometimes that's good for us to see. Why just rush through life? Let's take a little time. But sometimes there is a need for a schedule. So.
Well, I think that the Canvasback, they're doing a very needed service. When the one night that we did get to walk around a little bit, you don't have to get very far away from the center of town to see that the residents here really don't have much as far as anything that's extra, you know, that their lives are pretty much just sustained, and that's about the what they have. And the first day at clinic here, that was a real eye-opener for me, because, you know, it wasn't just the clinic waiting room. That all the halls in the hospital were full of people sitting with a hope. They didn't have appointments, sitting with a hope that they could get some care. And so that really affected me for coming.
It'll be exciting tomorrow morning. We get to see some of the. We're always in surgery, so we see those patients, but we don't get to see the results. But we'll have that opportunity tomorrow when they, you know, remove the patch and get to see their reaction to having vision again.
So for Canvasback, I'd say that would be the real reason for supporting Canvasback, is because of the opportunity that they're providing for these people to get some care that they wouldn't get. There a lot of them, there's no way they could buy a ticket to get off island to go somewhere else where there might be somebody that could give them the care. So that's, I see the big part of Canvasback.
The three biggest killers in the islands of Micronesia are heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Canvasback has tackled these issues head-on by establishing a wellness center on the atoll of Majuro. People there eat very few vegetables. Now, thanks to Canvasback, islanders are learning how to grow gardens in their backyards and to exercise. The lifestyle changes have been so remarkable, the government invited Canvasback to write an entire curriculum for the public school system. Now the lives of the children are changing too, and our trained neighborhood health teams travel the island to monitor glucose levels, heart rate, and blood pressure. It's not uncommon to discover glucose levels of 500 to 600. These people are taken to the hospital, and once stabilized, the team begins the education process to reverse their diabetes. That's right, reverse their diabetes. Many island nations are asking us to come over and help them. With your financial help, many more islanders can experience good health.
There were so many times when Jesus found himself by the seaside teaching and preaching and sharing about God. Jesus was God, but he came down here to planet Earth in human form so that he might share with people who God really was, because the devil had lied. The devil still lies about how Jesus really is, who God really is. He came down here to die for you and for me. One day toward the end of his 3.5 years of earthly ministry, they captured him, they took him, they beat him, they did all these things to him, and finally he stood before Pilate. Pilate was the Roman who held him up before the people and asked whether he should be crucified or not. But then he said a very interesting thing. He looked at him and he said, "Behold the man." Behold the man. I would invite you today to behold the man. We behold Jesus, the great teacher who, overlooking the Sea of Galilee, began sharing things that no one had ever shared before. Things that change hearts and lives, change my life, maybe it's changed yours. Behold the man. We see Jesus who told the disciples to cast out and go to the other side of the lake. Out in the middle of that lake, he controlled the storm because he was the creator of the universe. Peter came to him and said, "You know, Lord, they've told us to pay taxes." Jesus said, "Go to the sea, catch a fish, the first fish, and pull out a coin out of his mouth and use that to pay taxes." And that's exactly what he did. Seems maybe hard to imagine, hard to believe, but not for the creator of the universe. The disciples one time were fishing out on the sea. They were casting their nets. They'd fished all night long. And Jesus stood by the seashore and he called out to them, "Cast your nets on the other side of the boat." Well, it turned out that was the side between he and the disciples. They cast the nets in after a little bit of argument because they were seasoned fishermen. They didn't want to listen to Jesus. Cast the nets in. The catch was huge. They pulled up this mighty catch. Why? because Jesus was the creator. I invite you today to behold Jesus as the creator. Then Jesus, we see him just before the time of the crucifixion. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane. He stayed under a tree. He poured out his heart to the Father because as the God-man, he'd taken on human form, human life. And a young man in his early 30s, he didn't want to die. He really didn't want to die. He says, Father, please, if this cup can pass from me, let it be so. No word, nothing. Nevertheless, Father, not my will, but your will be done. That happened 3 times. Not my will, but your will be done. Finally, he was completely resigned to the fact that he would do the Father's will. He chose to do the Father's will. He was then captured, taken to Pilate. We're back to that scene. Pilate said, behold the man. And then they took him to Calvary's cross. He laid down on that cross willingly because that's why he came to planet Earth, in order to die for you and me. Laid there as they pounded those nails into his hand, into his feet. He was bleeding, hanging there. He looked at the crowd, said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Truly, they didn't. They were crucifying God himself. And then they took him, placed him in a tomb. I've had the opportunity to be in that tomb, to lay almost in that tomb. And guess what? The tomb is empty. I've had the wonderful opportunity. The team and I have to film all over the world, many places, and we film pieces of Buddha here, pieces of Buddha there, pieces of this one here, this one there. They're all in a grave, but not Jesus. That grave is empty because the Father called him forth. He raised to eternal life. What a God we serve. And he said, you know, this same Jesus, he's going to come again in the same way. He's going to come back to planet Earth, and he's going to take those to himself who committed their lives fully and completely to him. Today, behold Jesus. When you behold Jesus, you see him with your own eyes. He will change your life. All the stuff taped in this room, I take it that's not the normal scenario that your team's doing.
Yes, it's genius too, I think. If you look around, every cabinet's packed with equipment, but none of it's ours, and we can't take theirs out, right? So they bring these bags and they tape them up and label. My daughter was with me last year, and my son did it this year, and they put it all up, and yeah, it makes it much easier. It really helps with inventory too. For example, we only have 6 air filters left to do gas cases. And so we can keep track of that.
And then what happens?
Then we talk about recycling, reusing, safely,
It's the mission field, right? You got to do something.
It is.
Okay.
Compromise.
So tell us, before the patient shows up, what's going to be happening here today?
All right, so we have an elderly patient with an unusual disease for this area. It's called age-related macular degeneration. And this happens to the elderly. And the average lifespan is not very long here. I know in Mazur, I believe it's like 55, so I imagine it's not too different here. So this is a disease that happens after age 50.
I got to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
The average age is 55.
That's what I believe it is in Mazur. Now for here, I suspect it's a little longer, but
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, which is scary.
So definitely a lot shorter than the U.S.
It is. Like infant mortality is really high. It tends to spike. Infant mortality is high, and then there's one more point in your life. If you make it to like the 20s, then you're very likely to make it to your 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this person has that particular.
They do. They have age-related macular degeneration, which in the U.S. is the #1 cause of vision loss in our retired population. Here, there's not very many retired elderly people, but we have one, and she has cataracts in both eyes, and she has advanced age-related macular degeneration. There's 2 types, a dry type, which is usually more mild, slow progressing, and then a wet type. And the wet type is when you have bleeding in the eye, you have rapid vision loss, it's severe. What it does is cause central vision loss and can cause peripheral, and very rarely, like 1% of the time. And we have a 1%er with us today. So her blood broke through the retina, spread out from the center, and is out around the edges. So what we're going to do is take the cataract out, and then take the blood out of the eye, and then check the macula. We haven't even really seen it yet. We're presuming that's the diagnosis because we could see the other eye.
So is the removal of the cataract and removing the blood, is that one part of the surgery, or that's
Two separate
two
parts? Yeah.
Okay.
So traditionally, the cataract surgery, and then they'd come back weeks or months later, for the other part.
Okay, but since you're only here 2 weeks, you
All in one day. Yeah.
put it in. Okay.
So we'll get the blood out of the way, and then we'll check the macula, and it's very possible we'll have some healthy tissue back there and make a huge difference for the patient. But it's more likely that there'll be a scar in the center and will make a moderate difference for the patient, meaning we can bring back her peripheral vision, but she'll still have a blind spot in the very center. But peripheral vision usually can let you walk around and ambulate, so you don't need someone taking care of you 24/7.
You're here 2 weeks. Of course, this time, unfortunately, you got cut short because there was an emergency on the plane. You had to turn around and go back to Hawaii.
Yes.
But, so you lost a day. But typically, how many patients can you do? How many cataract surgeries can you do?
So on a mission trip, well, the cataract surgeons, I'm a retina surgeon, but so the cataract surgeons, I believe they did a little less than 200 cataract surgeries alone. So over 200 combining all the surgeries. Yeah, over 2 weeks. So
Wow.
divide that by 10, it's 20 cases a day.
So let's say that's, what, in the U.S., a couple $100,000 worth of surgeries?
Yes.
Yeah, all
Yes.
free.
Yes.
All free.
Yeah.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Now, on your side of things, the retinal surgery, you and I were talking, you said basically you'd performed the first one you think had been performed in Micronesia.
Correct, yeah.
Wow.
And last year, the first one in the Marshall Islands, I did have the benefit of speaking with the retina specialist who came out there 2 years before me with hopes of doing the first retinal surgery, and he brought all the equipment, and he found out there's no compressed gas that he could run on the machines when he got there. So with that warning, I called Alcon and told them the situation, and their team at their research lab went out and purchased an air compressor and got the specs on it, and they made the fittings and adapters.
Really?
And yeah, they were amazing. I think they're trying to avoid credit for it, but they deserve it.
My husband and I founded the Ministry of Canvasback Missions 38 years ago to serve the island nations of the Pacific. From those humble beginnings, our medical and dental super teams have been changing lives and bringing hope to so many people. Our teams volunteer their time and resources, and all of our services are free, but it does take funding to make it all happen. That's where you come in. Your financial support is needed. Please join us in changing lives, one miracle at a time.
If you'd like to be a part of this exciting ministry, you can write us at Canvasback Missions, 940 Adams Street, Suite R, Benicia, California, 94510. You can also log on to canvasback.org or call us at 707-746-7828. Thank you for watching. Please join me again for another exciting island adventure. Remember, Canvasback is making an impact on hearts and lives, one miracle at a time.